When we talk about magic, it's tempting to imagine power as something that can be taken, stored, or wielded, as if it were fuel in a tank or lightning in a bottle. But power isn't really a thing at all, it's a relationship, a pattern of exchange that exists between things, not inside them. That's what I want to explore today, the ecology of power, or we could call it the web of life. Let's begin with something simple. Take a breath. That breath isn't just yours. The air entering your lungs was exhaled by trees, by algae in the sea, by bacteria older than mountains. You're not taking oxygen from the world, you're participating in a cycle that's been going on for billions of years. Every breath you take is the world breathing through you. Every heartbeat is a drumbeat in a much larger rhythm. This is the foundation of magic. All energy, all life, all motion, all thought is relational. It exists in connection. When magicians talk about raising power, what we're really doing is stirring relationships, waking up lines that tie us to everything else. There's a deep misunderstanding in the modern mind that power means control, that magic is about bending reality to your will, forcing outcomes, commanding spirits, mastering nature. But the deeper traditions, the animist roots that underlie all real magic, tells a very different story. They say that magic is not domination, it's negotiation, it's reciprocity. To live magically is to enter into a dialogue with the world, not a monologue. You don't bark orders at the universe and expect it to obey. You listen, you offer, and you respond. You become part of the conversation. Think about it. When a witch leaves an offering before working a spell, that isn't superstition. It's just etiquette. It's the understanding that energy flows both ways, that if you take, you must also give. Every act of magic, every transformation costs something, not as punishment, but as balance. We're used to thinking of ecology in terms of biology, food webs, predator prey relationships, nutrient cycles, but there's also a spiritual ecology. Every thought, word, and action ripples outward, affecting subtle fields of energy, emotion, and meaning. Every spell is part of this web. You can't pull one thread without vibrating the whole. So when we work magic, we're not manipulating inert forces. We're participating in living systems, vast, intelligent, responsive systems that include God's spirits, ancestors, plants, stars, algorithms, and dreams. Magic, in its truest form, is ecological consciousness in motion. In the 1970s, the anthropologist Gregory Bateson coined a phrase, the pattern that connects. He meant that life isn't built out of separate parts, but out of relationships, the feedback loops that hold systems together. A tree doesn't exist apart from the soil, the air, the fungi in its roots, the insects that pollinate it, or humans who breathe oxygen. The pattern is what holds it all, the tree in the forest and the forest in the tree. Now imagine applying that same understanding to magic. Every symbol you draw, every word you speak, every intention you shape, it's part of a pattern. It connects you to other patterns, ancient, cosmic, and deeply personal. You might think you're lighting a candle to draw prosperity, but what you're really doing is tapping into centuries of collective intention, mythic resonance, and natural forces that shape how abundance flows through human life. This is what makes magic powerful, not because you command energy, but because you align with it, because you recognize the pattern and step into its rhythm. That's why some rituals feel effortless, like the universe is helping you along, while others feel like you're pushing uphill. When you're out of sync with the web, when you're acting from ego, greed, or fear, the flow resists. But when you're in alignment, acting from understanding, compassion, and awareness, the web supports you. Now, this idea isn't new. The ancient animists already knew it. They just used different language. To them, every river, stone, and star had a spirit, not as metaphor, but as truth. They didn't see things at all. They saw relationships. The spirit in the rock wasn't in the rock. It was the rock in relation to all things. The wind wasn't just moving air. It was the breath of the world, the voice of the unseen. Modern systems theory and ecology are rediscovering that the old, or what the old shamans always knew, that life is networked, that intelligence doesn't live in a brain or a single being, but in relationships between beings. A coral reef, a forest, a human society, all are self-organizing systems. Each part affects every other part through feedback. When one component changes, the whole system responds. That's exactly how magic works. It's systems interaction. A spell is an intervention in a complex living network. You make a change at one point in the web, and the ripples spread, shifting probabilities, emotions, and events until a new equilibrium forms. In that sense, magic is both ancient and modern. It's animism meeting cybernetics. It's the witch's intuition meeting the scientist's equations. Both recognize the same truth. Everything is connected, and the connections matter more than the parts. Let's talk about intent, because this is where many people get lost. When magicians say set your intent, they often mean focus your desire. But intent isn't just about willpower, it's about attunement, about understanding the ecology of your working. Let's say you want to attract love. On the surface, that seems simple. You do a spell, maybe light a candle, visualize your ideal partner. But beneath that, your intention sends ripples through a vast emotional ecosystem. Your self-worth, your expectations, the way you treat others, the timing of events, the readiness of the people around you. If you push too hard or demand without offering, you create turbulence in that field. The current resists. But if your spell grows from a deeper understanding, if your intent includes openness, gratitude, and mutual benefit, then the web adjusts gracefully. The current carries you toward connection, not collision. This is what the old magicians meant when they said, as above, so below. The higher and lower reflect one another because they are not separate. Every action is mirrored. Every desire has consequences. Magic isn't a shortcut around reality, it's participation in its deepest workings. So when you craft a spell, think ecologically. Ask yourself, what am I feeding with this act? What am I offering back to the field I'm drawing from? If your magic supports the balance of the web, if it nourishes life, truth, and reciprocity, it will flow easily. If it disrupts or exploits, it will demand payment in return. That's not punishment, it's the law of relationships. In the previous episode, we talked about energy as the animating presence of life: chi, prana, odic force, spirit. Here, we take it further. Energy is not a stockpile, it's a flow. Think of it like water. If you try to hoard it, it stagnates. If you keep it moving through acts of generosity, gratitude, and exchange, it remains clear and vibrant. That's why most spiritual traditions emphasize giving, sharing, tithing, or making offerings. It keeps the current alive. In magical practice, this means you can't just take power from nature, spirits, or other beings. You have to participate in their flow. When you ask the earth for grounding, give her something in return. When you call on the ancestors for aid, honor them afterwards. When you draw from the elements, don't just consume, collaborate. This is the ecology of power. Everything moves in cycles. The magician's art lies in learning to surf those cycles rather than fight them, to know when to send energy out and when to draw it in, to act when the tides rise and rest when it falls. That's why rituals are often tied to lunar phases, seasons, planetary hours. They're not arbitrary. They're expressions of rhythm, helping us to attune our small motions to the great pulse of the world. When you align your magic with those rhythms, your workings amplify. You're no longer forcing energy, you're dancing with it. Here's the part we often forget. Every act of magic has ripples beyond what we can see. If you charm yourself with confidence, you might inspire someone else to find their own courage. If you bless your home, the peace you cultivate there may subtly influence your neighbors. Energy moves through invisible channels, emotional, psychic, symbolic, shaping reality in ways that defy linear cause and effect. This is why humility matters in magic, not the kind of false humility that hides from power, but the kind that recognizes how vast and intricate the web truly is. You can never see the full extent of your influence. Every word, every ritual, every thought adds or subtracts from the world's balance. And this brings us back to reciprocity. Magic is participation in the world's ongoing creation. You're not outside of nature, you are nature, conscious of itself. Your spellcraft is one more strand in the cosmic weave. To live magically, then, is to live relationally. It's to walk through the world knowing that everything you touch touches you in return. The river remembers your footprints, the wind listens, the house you live in learns your moods, the digital web hums with your attention, your desire. It's all alive and entangled. When you begin to see that, something changes. Magic stops being about control and becomes about collaboration. You stop trying to dominate the current and start learning to move with it, to listen, to adapt, and to respond. This is what indigenous and animistic cultures understood long before the word magic ever existed. Their rituals were acts of relationship, ways of maintaining harmony with the unseen powers that sustained them. They didn't pray to the rain, they sang with it. They didn't worship the sun, they danced to mirror its light. Magic, in that sense, is an act of kinship. It's about remembering that we belong. So maybe that's what the magician really is, an ecologist of the soul. Someone who studies the flow of subtle energies, who observes how thoughts, emotions, and symbols interact with species in an ecosystem. We tend our inner landscape the way a gardener tends soil, balancing, pruning, nourishing, so that life can thrive. And when we work outer magic, casting spells, invoking spirits, or crafting talismans, you're doing the same thing on a larger scale. We're tending the world's energetic ecology, aligning our will with the greater currents that sustain all life. To practice magic responsibly, then, is to practice ecological awareness. Every working should consider its effects, not just on yourself, but on the field you share with others. It's not about fear of backlash or karma, it's about integrity, about being a conscious participant in the web of life. So, next time you cast a spell, pause for a moment. Feel the web around you, the pulsing, shimmering network of life and energy. Sense how your breath joins the wind, how your heartbeat echoes in the roots of the world. Ask, what relationship am I entering into? What does this act give as well as take? Because magic is not a solo performance, it's a symphony. And when you understand the ecology of power, when you learn to move with the currents rather than against them, your magic becomes not only more effective, but more beautiful. It becomes a way of living harmoniously, reverently, and awake, a dance with the forces that weave existence itself. That's the web of life, and that's where the real magic begins. And that brings us to the end of episode 2. I hope you're enjoying the series, and I'll see you next time. Cheers for now.